Hi, I'm Paul Guppy with the Washington Policy Center, and this is our final legislative update for the Washington State legislative session in 2022. So the legislature did adjourn on January 10th, right on time. That's what they scheduled for. It was a 60-day shorter session, the idea being that they make adjustments to the two-year budget in even numbered years, and then in odd numbered years, they pass a full two-year budget. So this year they were supposed to just make adjustments, but so much money is pouring into the Treasury. The state has over $11 billion surplus predicted over the next two budget cycles. And of course, there were major calls for tax relief. Even some Democrats introduced bills asking for major tax relief. In addition, because of COVID and other economic problems across the country, our research shows that virtually every other state governed by Democrats or Republicans have enacted significant tax relief for their citizens. There appears to be one outlier state that has not done that, and that is Washington State. So we were disappointed that hundreds of millions of dollars were added in spending. $650 million was added to schools because about 41,000 families have left public education, and what school districts asked for was, well, that affects their budget. So they want more money to backfill students who have left. So they're basically funding empty seats, and they expanded spending in other areas as well. As I mentioned, what they did not provide was tax relief for the citizens of our state. There was even a proposal at one point to provide free parking passes at state parks, and even that was pulled out. So turns out that we're going to get virtually no broad-based tax relief. There's a targeted tax measure for some small businesses, but again, it's very minor and most people won't see any benefit from that at all. Having said that, we do have a number of legislative successes that we're proud of. Washington Policy Center was fully engaged through the session. This was the second session in a row that was held remotely, but still our analysts were talking to committees and lawmakers. We covered dozens of bills. Our staff testified at 20 legislative hearings. We have a staff of 9 analysts that were covering a range of issues, as I said. What was interesting is that our analysts actually have greater expertise often on these bills than some of the committee staff does. And we've received a number of thank yous for our testimony in clarifying issues. So that's worked really well. I do have a list here quickly of successes that we had in the legislature. I won't be able to describe each of these in detail. More information is on our website. But just to run through these, we were successful in killing SB 5843. That was a free speech limitation bill that the governor proposed. I testified on it. We did an analysis of the bill, and it died in committee. So we were surprised because the governor was pushing hard for that. We also gained a delay in the long-term care payroll tax, very unpopular tax. We're hoping that next year they will look at repealing that program. We killed a statewide soda tax. Our research showed that since 2018, the soda tax in Seattle has not achieved public health benefits. So there's no reason to impose it on everybody across the state. That bill died. We killed a bill that would have imposed new restrictions on nursing. In fact, we supported a bill which passed that expanded nursing training and provide more medical services in clinics and hospitals. So we succeeded on that. We defeated a Democrat proposal to cut class time by 20%. To us, this made no sense. Our research showed that online learning was not working for most students. We should get students back in the classroom. We were successful in pushing for schools to reopen safely. Now we are hoping that they will lift the mask mandates on students so kids can learn full-time in class without restrictions, and that child development and learning will be able to continue in our state. We also helped to kill a 6-cent gas tax that had been proposed in the transportation issue. So that was taken off the table. And we continue to work on a state income tax ban. We did have a victory in court a week or so ago, but in addition to that, we are proactively promoting local income tax bans. So far, 11 counties and 16 city governments have passed bans on a local income tax. And the reason that's important is because it protects those citizens, but also it sends a signal to the courts and to state lawmakers that people really care about the income tax issue, and they're not going to just wait around for the courts to maybe decide what to do. We are proactively advancing bans on a state income tax. We're confident that that court case will come out constitutionally the way that it should, and that the income tax law will be struck down. So we'll continue to track that. And finally, the last issue that we worked on, again, disappointing for us, is emergency powers reform. Governor Inslee has governed the state under emergency powers for about 780 days. That is a countrywide record. No other state has had that kind of extension of emergency powers. There was a very weak bill to put some limits on the governor's powers that was brought up at 1 o'clock in the morning by the Democratic majority. They debated it for 30 minutes and then they killed the bill. When they were asked why, their comment back was because Republicans had, quote, filibustered the bill. Well, Washington State doesn't have a filibuster. So we looked into what they were talking about. And it turns out that Republicans had offered amendments to try to strengthen the emergency powers reform bill. And the majority was upset by that. Their complaint was that Republicans wanted to debate every amendment on every proposal that was brought up related to emergency powers. So at about 1:30 in the morning, they killed this bill. To us, that's strange because the purpose of the emergency powers reform is to promote democracy in our state so that an elected legislature is working with an elected governor to govern the people of our state, to pass laws that are needed. And not only did they kill an emergency powers bill that would have brought more democracy to our state, they did it in a very undemocratic way by blocking debate and amendments on the very bill that is supposed to improve our democracy. So that was a disappointing process. We've seen all kinds of shenanigans and tricks pulled in the legislature, in committee, behind the scenes, with amendments, with floor action. And this was really capper to pull a bill that was supposed to strengthen our democracy by claiming that it was filibustered by the opposition party is just an unprecedented move in our state. So with that, we will now begin to work on legislative issues coming up later in the year, and we will continue to keep you updated. We hope you'll share this video if you find it useful. And as always, we appreciate the support of our thousands of members across the state whose donations make our work possible. Our analysts are the most prominent independent experts on virtually any issue that our government is dealing with. We are an important resource for the media, and your contributions help us continue that work. So I wanted to say thank you for that.